Welcome back to TD SportsPress podcast. We are back with our Week 7 takeaway show, and man, we have a live show for you guys today. We are going to be talking about everything. What a wild day. Even today, we've had 3 coach firings, obviously the most notable one. James Franklin is not going to be at Penn State anymore. A $50 million buyout. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about some of the results from Week 7. How about those Indiana Hoosiers with an absolute huge win against Oregon on the road? Oregon hasn't lost a home game in forever, and they go in and they win 30-20. They almost make it look too easy at some point, but we'll be talking about that game. We'll talk about a lot of other games, but before we head on, if we could have everyone leave a subscribe to the channel, it would be awesome. We are at 10 subscribers, where our goal is to hit 100 subscribers before bowl season hits. If that happens, we will have a giveaway on the channel as well. This channel has big plans for the future. Can't wait to share it with you guys. We're super stoked for what the future could hold. So, with that being said, let's get right into the show. Check out our TikTok and our Spotify as well for our long forms content, short forms. We go live every single day on TikTok, by the way, and we post 2 videos a day on TikTok. So we got everything there for you. There's our plug for us. We're obviously still looking for sponsors. If you want to leave a sponsor, we have our email on here as well. So let's get on with the big news. James Franklin is no longer the head coach at Penn State. Kind of hard if you would have said yourself 3 weeks before the Oregon game started that James Franklin is not going to be, he's not going to be with the program in 3 weeks before that Oregon game. Penn State was a stop away in overtime to beating Oregon, and now they fired their head coach after getting beat by Northwestern. Drew Howard's out for the year. Penn State, there's just not a lot going on with Penn State right now. Very interesting, I would say. I don't know what the trajectory of the program is right now. This was a team that a lot of people thought were in the college football playoffs, me as included. I thought that they were going to make the playoffs, and they're not going to make the playoffs this year, most likely. Who knows? Maybe they go and win out like UCLA, but I don't know what's going to go with Penn State. He's paying a $50 million buyout. That's how much money James Franklin. So, it's probably a sad day for Penn State, but probably one of the happiest guys in the world today was probably James Franklin when we got the call, hey, you're out of here. Because he's got a $50 million buyout. And then they got to buy out his staff. It's a whole crazy thing at Penn State. I guess they got money like that. And good for them for having money like that, I would say. So I didn't see this going. I thought they'd finish out the year at least and kind of see which way to go. But obviously Penn State didn't see it the same way. So it is what it is. Who do I think get the job at Penn State? I could see Kirk Cignetti. He'd probably be on the short list. Matt Rule might be on there. Number 3, what if they get John Gruden? John Gruden coaching Penn State? I think John Gruden probably goes back to the NFL at some point, but you got to offer the job to John Gruden. In my opinion, I think that he'd be a great candidate for that Penn State job. But we'll see as the year goes on. There's 9. I can see the Florida job opening up in a couple weeks as well. There's just a lot of we don't know right now in college football right now. If you don't produce results in 2 weeks, heavens, anyone could lose 3 games and you're gone like that. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway with James Franklin being gone. Because I didn't see this happening, but I wouldn't wish this on anyone. So hopefully it works out for both parties. And with that being said, that's how we're going to lead off the show. That's our first segment there. Let's get into the games now. So obviously we had to start with this show. It would feel wrong if we didn't do this show first. We had number 7 Indiana going to number 3 Oregon in Oxford Stadium in Oregon, and what a ball game we had here today. Oregon came in undefeated. Indiana undefeated as well. A lot of people, I think the line was set at 7.5, and Indiana just came in and did what they wanted. Their quarterback 20 of 31, 205 yards and a touchdown. That's really going to be a good recipe for success. And more, their quarterback for Oregon had 140, 150 yards passing, and that's just not good enough. And Kirk Cignetti, he said to Google him, he wins. And the only thing that I'm seeing is he's winning. This is crazy. This is one of probably the most shocking results in college football up to this point. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, you never knew." Yeah, there's not maybe an Indiana fan out there really thought they have a chance, could beat Oregon. I like Indiana; they're a great program. But this changes the trajectory of college football. I saw a quote like that yesterday, so I'm very interested to see where it goes from here with Indiana. They still have to go to Penn State. That's nothing as daunting. I mean, Indiana could be in the college football playoff. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Or excuse me, not the Big Ten championship. They will be probably in the college football playoff, in my opinion. But man, I did not see this result coming. I mean, great for Indiana. This is a great program win. It's going to help them, get those recruits, those NIL funds. And where does Oregon go from here? You look at a team like Oregon. They lose a game. They still have everything in front of them, but how good is Oregon? I think you have to ask that question. Their best win is Penn State, and it's not looking so good for Penn State over there. So I'm interested to see how Oregon bounces back from that. I know Dan Lanning's going to have this team ready to go. They could be playing Weber State, or they could be playing Ohio State. It doesn't matter who they play. They're just going to keep their head down and go. So that's just life in the Big Ten. Very interesting game. I didn't see Indiana winning this, but shout out to Indiana. They deserved to win it, and they did win it. So Indiana still got a lot of everything in front of them. So that's what we'll end with that. I was very interested in that final score. Moving on, we had to talk about this game. I called it. Texas beats Oklahoma. Not surprised by this result at all. Arch Manning, 21 of 27, 166 yards and a touchdown. I mean, Arch did what he was supposed to do. He went out and won the game. He was a game manager. He didn't make any game time moments. He just went out in Steve Sarkisian's system and did the system. That they didn't ask for him to do anything else besides the system, and they came out with a W. I mean, that's huge for Texas. They were desperate for the win. I talked about this on the show on Thursday, that Texas is coming in like this is a must-win situation, and they got the win. Oklahoma, they would have liked to win, but they probably didn't have to win, is how I look at it. But let's stay with Texas here. Texas has everything in front of them, I would say. I'm not sure where the program is currently right now in terms of the SEC. I mean, you're going to be playing great games every week. It doesn't matter in the SEC. Every program is capable of beating anyone. I think we've been learning that as the SEC goes on. But, I mean, this is a great win for Texas. They had to have this one. We look at Oklahoma. John Mateer didn't look like himself out there. I mean, 3 interceptions. I'm very interested to see where this goes from here for Oklahoma. They could go 7-5, or they could make the playoffs. I'm very interested to see how this goes. A lot of things ahead of Oklahoma that I was excited for John Mateer. Hopefully everything's good, and the hand injury, it looked like it affected him. I will say, it looked like it affected him a little bit just on some of his throws. So that will be very interesting. But Texas went in and got a win in the Red River, and they've won 3 of the last 4. I think that's been since Steve Sarkisian's been there. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's been the case. So this is a great win for, like I said, for Texas in the SEC. I mean, there's like 8 or 9 teams in the SEC that are 1-1. So I'm very interested in the SEC. I think they got 6 or 7 teams that are probably ranked in the AP poll. You'll see where I have Texas in our poll on Tuesday. So Texas fans might not like me, but that's okay. But like I said, this is not a shocking result to me. I picked Texas on Thursday. I thought that they were in a must-win situation, so Texas wins this game. Like I said, I saw this coming. So let's move on here. This game was let's talk about it right here. We had number 7 Alabama going to number 14 Missouri. I will tell you right now, this was probably one of the hardest games I've had to predict the entire year. We got it right, but Missouri should have won this football game. And here's why Missouri should have won. Why in the world does your best running back have 12 carries? That guy should have 20-plus carries in a game like this. But we got to give shout-outs to Alabama. They, ever since losing to Florida State, a switch went off. And, they've got great 3 wins. Probably one of the best 3-week stretches in the country so far. Beating Georgia, beating Vandy at home, going to Missouri off a bye and winning. Well, Missouri was on the bye. So that is very interesting. This is great for Alabama. Ty Simpson, 23 of 31, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. just does what, an experienced quarterback does, and he is an experienced quarterback. In terms of he's been in the program, he was a number one, like a 5-star recruit in 2022, and he stayed there. And this is why he did, to beat Missouri. And so Alabama, they have everything in front of them. They can go out and still make the SEC championship. Their losses to the ACC, they don't have a loss yet. And they got a big game against Tennessee coming up. So I'm very interested to see what happens in that game as well. And then, let's talk about Missouri. Missouri, it's hard to rank Missouri where I have them in my poll coming out on Tuesday. I already did my poll. Check out TikTok if you want some early access on that. But I didn't see this with Missouri I thought they would lose, but not in the way. I thought they would live and die with the ground and pound. It just did not happen for Missouri. And, I don't know. Missouri's got to figure some stuff out. Like I said, they have a Heisman candidate in their backfield, and they give them the ball 12 times. Like, come on, what are we doing? But like I said, you got to give a shout out to Alabama's defense. I guess they gave them looks that they didn't think they could run the football. That's the only explanation I can come out of is that Missouri saw something pre-snap that they couldn't run the football against Alabama. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can answer that question for me because I don't know why in the world they only ran the ball that many times. So, but shout out to Alabama. They got to play Tennessee next week. So, life, like I said, life in the SEC is not for the weak. It's what you sign up for when you go to Alabama or South Carolina or Kentucky for that matter. So we'll see what happens. So shout out to Alabama. They get the win and they move on. They're going to keep going. So that is good for them. Let's move on to this game. And holy cow. This game was something else, would I tell you. Number 10, Georgia, beats Auburn 20-10. If you guys didn't watch this football game, it was a ref show and a half. I've never seen a worse officiated college football game than I watched last night. I feel bad for Auburn. Auburn had a touchdown, and they called it a fumble. It makes no sense when the ball is clearly crossed the line. I don't even know. And then Kirby Smart calls a timeout, then he doesn't call a time. I've never seen anything like that before. So if I was an Auburn fan, they've been screwed in 2 games this year against Oklahoma and Georgia. I mean, they're right in these games. They scored a touchdown. Georgia, it was 3rd and 8. They didn't convert, or they did convert, and Kirby Smart called a timeout, and then he didn't call a timeout. I've never seen anything. Like, none of these refs need to be held accountable. Like, all they do is they'll, like you saw against Oklahoma, they'll release a Twitter statement saying, we made a mistake. Well, I mean, Hugh Freeze's job is not safe right now. Like, you should be giving him $200,000 or something. Like, there's got to be a fine for making mistakes like this. How do you go to a review and see the ball is clearly across the goal line and you still call it a fumble? How do you make a mistake like that at review? You don't see that very often. And if I'm an Auburn fan, I check on the Auburn fans, please. Because I don't know what is going on with these officials in the SEC. It is diabolical at this point what is going on. Georgia, they won this. Stockton Bennett, 24-37, 217 yards. They got lucky. Auburn really controlled this football game in the first half. And I really thought Auburn was going to have a chance to win this game. But I didn't see this. Or I thought Auburn would lose, but not in the way that they lost. It is very puzzling the way they lost. You can't blame the rest for everything. I guess we'll talk about Georgia's offense. They went out and did what they were supposed to. Man, I don't know. I'm flabbergasted even talking about this. Like, how does Auburn? I don't know. How do these officials just get to go on to next week like nothing happened? In the replay review, how do you mess that up that bad? I don't know. We got to move on with the show, but Georgia plays Ole Miss this week. Ole Miss didn't look terrible. They beat Washington State 34-31. I don't know what's going to happen in the SEC with that game, but let's move on. Auburn, you just got to keep going. You got to roll with the punches, as I like to say. You got to roll with the punches. You got to keep going. You got to keep chugging. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what more they need to do. So let's move on. Okay, this was probably the most, I would say this is probably the most entertaining football game of the weekend. It was my best bet of the week, was BYU to win this game. And they looked nothing like the bet of the week until the very end of the scoreboard, because they should have lost this game to Arizona. Arizona, there was a rain delay. I mean, there was distractions. BYU pulls this out in double overtime. Great for BYU. Bear threw he was 12 of 29, 172 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, they ran the football for over 100 yards. Arizona, they just couldn't get a stop when it mattered. That's just the fact of the matter. In the fourth quarter, they were getting stops, and then the fourth quarter happened. They just could not get off the field. And Arizona, they have 2 losses now. Some things to play for in the Big 12, maybe a little bit. They're kind of fading now. They were undefeated. They got beat by Iowa State. The Iowa State loss is looking worse by the moment. And a team like BYU coming in undefeated into your house, and they just couldn't get off the field when they needed to at the end of the game. BYU is kind of banged up on the defensive side of the ball. They still are. That's something to monitor. And just so everyone's on the same page, it's Holy War week next week. It's Holy War, because holy smokes, we're going to have a college football game at 6 p.m. on Fox, Utah and BYU. But going back to this game, takeaways, BYU, they can't play this way and beat Utah next week. That's what I'm going to say. They can't play this way. I'll probably have some BYU fans that get mad at me in the comment section. But in order to beat Utah, they cannot play the way they did against Colorado and Arizona. If BYU plays the way they have the last those 2 games, they will not beat Utah. So they got to get some things figured out. They, like I said, the positive, they were able to run the football. So good for BYU going in and winning this game. And, by the skin of their teeth, it really was a double overtime game at Arizona. But our bet of the week is now 2-0. We'll take that. We are 2-0 with the bet of the week. That is what we are looking for. So let's move on to, we're going to be talking about the other side of the Holy War. We had Utah with a dominating performance against number 21 Arizona State. Obviously, Sam Leviett was the story of the game, not playing. He was in a boot. I don't know if that was for show. I don't know. Maybe you guys agree with me. I don't get why we have people in boots it must be a really serious foot injury, but what is being in a boot for 3 days? I'm no doctor. Maybe I'm talking crazy. I don't know. Let's get back. My recap of this game. Utah's, they're getting better. The Kyle Whittingham's team is getting better. They were more physical. It was a Utah game to a T. If someone wanted to know what Utah football is about, they would say, "Yep, here's the game. This is how they out physical everyone." Devin Dampier, he was 7 of 12 for 100. They only threw 12 passes for 104 yards. He had 10 carries for 120 yards and a touchdown. Utah, they're starting to hum a little bit after getting Texas Tech. I think that Texas Tech loss is looking better and better, because heavens, Texas Tech looks unbeatable almost at this point. But we'll see as the year goes on. But holy smokes, they look really good. And, we got to go with Arizona State. It's a quick week. You got to play Texas Tech. I hope Sam Levy's ready to play, because they got to watch this performance. This is probably a game you don't even watch. You don't even turn on the film. You say we got to move on, because I'm not sure how much film that's really good that they can take out of. Obviously, there's some things to work on, but Arizona State, there's a lot of questions. Kenny Dillingham, he was great last year. They were undefeated, or they had 1 loss to Texas Tech at some point, but I don't know. They got to figure it out. This was an embarrassing performance, I would say. I think that a lot of people would agree with that. It was an embarrassing performance for Arizona State. They expected more, but they lost 42-20 to a Utah team that was more hungry than Arizona State. They needed a win, and they got it. And like I said, we get Utah-BYU next week. Probably one of the most hostile rivalries there are in college football. And at the game before it is Texas Tech and Arizona State. The Big 12 is going to have a slate of games. I couldn't be more excited for those couple of games. Those are going to be great football games. And then lastly, we had to end with this game. Where's all the Michigan fans now? I got absolutely blasted in my TikTok mentions after I picked USC to beat Michigan. This game went exactly how I thought this game would go. Bryce Underwood, I don't know. They just don't have any receivers around him. Normally it's the other way around. They have the receivers, but not the quarterback. Bryce Underwood's going to keep getting better. They got to provide him with some weapons at some point, I would think. But let's talk about USC. This was a must-win for USC in terms of getting their mojo right with Lincoln Riley. They beat a number 15 Michigan. Their best story of that, King Miller, the running back for USC, was a walk-on, and he has 158 yards and a touchdown. So much for that Michigan defense being so good. I mean, a walk-on went on and did what he did. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be. I don't know. But Michigan, they have 2 losses now. It's going to get interesting here if they can make the college football playoff. They almost have to win out. We'll see. Everything might be in front of them. USC, hey, another win in the win column. That loss to Illinois is looking better with Indiana. USC, they're still in the mix in the Big Ten. They are in the Big Ten, not the Pac-12. I almost made that mistake. I won't even lie. I just about said that USC is in the Pac-12. So, did not make that mistake, thank goodness. So, Michigan, they got to figure it out. They got to figure out the offense. That's just the story of it right now. Their offense cannot get anything going right now. And they can't win games when the other team scores more than 20 points. I don't know if it's not possible or what it is, but they can't do it. So that's just as easy as I can say it. They got to figure out a way to win the game, and they just haven't been able to figure it out so far. So, but hey, that is our Week 7 rankings our Week 7 takeaway show. Like I said, we'd love to have this sponsored by someone. If you would love to sponsor the show, let me know. Leave a comment. What was your biggest surprise of the Week 7? Maybe there's a game we missed. There's a lot of games. We could briefly go over Florida State. Florida State, oh my gosh. They have fallen down kind of like they did last year. Pitt goes into Florida State and wins that game. Not surprised, but Florida State, they got to figure it out. Life in the ACC, they have 3 losses, and the season's almost over for them the way they've been playing. And Pitt, watch out for Pitt. They got a new quarterback, so that's interesting. That's a quick take. Or Ohio State beats Illinois. Ohio State's defense insane. What other game? Texas Tech took care of Kansas. UCF took care of Northern Texas, like I said they would. So yeah, those are kind of our quick game. We didn't have time for in the show. We like to keep this to around 25 to 30 minutes a show. But hey, if you guys want longer form content, let me know. We can make this show as long as you guys want. But with that being said, I think we're going to wrap up our show here. Check out our TikTok. We're almost to 14,000 subscribers on TikTok and on YouTube on this platform. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I know you guys want to. It would really help the channel out. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers before bowl season, so we can have our giveaway, which would be awesome for helping us reach that. That'd be awesome. We'll have our giveaway. I haven't quite got that figured out. Check us out on Spotify as well. If you guys missed an episode, it's all on Spotify. Great for a commute at work. Like if you're going to your office, you got a 20-minute show for you. It's very short. I like college football shows like that. That's the kind of college football shows I listen to. So with that being said, we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Like I said, we're live on YouTube with live shows Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Tuesday will be our preview. I will give you guys my debut of my poll for Week 8. Holy smokes, we're almost out of college football. We're halfway there. And then Thursday is our upset meter. So I have our upset alert meter out for us. And like I said, if you love the content, we're on TikTok as well. We post 2 videos a day for the most part, and we go live every single day as well. So if you guys want to go there, I go really into the Q&A session there. So with that being said, we're going to end the live here. Have a great Sunday night, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.